Hey everybody, it's What's Up Mike. It's a Sunday. I've got a question. It's not an easy one. Should I let my kids start their own YouTube channel? I don't know, man. I don't know. Do we want, the 2020 equivalent of child actors in the house? Maybe. I mean, they need an outlet, right? We're still stuck at home. Let's figure that out. Yeah, so it's Sunday, April 5th, in the studio, and my kids, we've got this thing. So my kids, they watch YouTube, they love Minecraft, all of them. They play Minecraft on the Nintendo Switch, and I don't really have a problem with it, right? Like this brings up the greater question of what should you as a parent be thinking about with your kids and their video games? But yeah, that's a real question is how much screen time, video games, whatever you want to call it, how much screen time should you let your kids have in general? That's too big of a question to answer right here. But then also, like, what's your view as a parent on video games? So, um, then we'll get into letting our kids put their likeness out there in public and what that means. But kids in video games, there's I think after what kids in video game we're 30 years into kids in video games, probably not 30, 40 years in. 40 years into kids in video games, right? It started with Atari, but really in my mind the world opened up with the 8-bit Nintendo, and maybe that's my personal perspective because that's the first console, that's the first video game system of any kind I got, but I'm fairly certain that the moment my parents bought me an 8-bit Nintendo back in the day, I was in I want to say like third grade, 8 years old, somewhere around there. I got an 8-bit Nintendo, and you know what? I love that shit. Still, Mario 1 and Mario 3. I liked Mario 3 better than Mario 1, but all of my friends would do races on Mario 1 to beat the game with the little world skip and all of that shit. And I was one of the first people to figure out the world skip and like come to school the next day like vibrating. I was so excited to tell my friends about what I found. Dude, the 8-bit Nintendo shit was awesome. Everybody knows that, right? Like that wave of kids who are, these 80s kids who at like right around 1990. When did that shit come out? I didn't even look that up ahead of time. Let's see. 8-bit Nintendo release. What does the Google machine have for us? Let's look at the NES, Nintendo Entertainment System. Was launched in a test market in New York City in 1985. Full-blown launch across North America in September 86. And then Australia and countries in Europe in 87. And yeah, so this is late 80s. The release, let's say, my parents, the way we were, we got nothing on release like this, especially. So this isn't something we'd have gotten on release. I bet I got this in 1990. No, maybe 91 or 92 even. When was the Super Nintendo? Sorry, we're going down a rabbit hole here right now. We're looking at the SNES release date was November 21st, 1990. So I must have gotten I never got a Super Nintendo, but I must have gotten the 8-bit Nintendo right around 1990, 1989, something like that, right? So 5, 6 years old, even a little earlier than I thought. So, right, I'm like 6, 7 years old, maybe even as young as 5 when I got this. I don't think I got it at 5, but I get this Nintendo system, and I'm fairly certain that from that point on, my parents decided they'd made a morbid's not the right word, a mistake that caused an existential crisis for our family. I'm fair, like from that moment on, all I remember my entire life up to now, if I mention playing video games to my parents today, 35 years old, they'll tell me I'm wasting my time, wasting my life, and they'll make fun of me. My family will actively make fun of me for playing video games. To this day, I mean, I don't give a shit anymore. Like, that opinion that they've had has been lost on me for decades. I don't even know why they repeat it anymore. But it's like the idea that watching the NFL on Sunday is okay, right? Like that form of enjoyment. Going to a movie's okay. Going to a movie alone is okay. That form of enjoyment. Watching Saturday Night Live is okay. But if you're sitting in front of a screen and you pick up something that allows you to control what's on that screen, now you've crossed a line in entertainment. You're wasting your life. That logic doesn't hold. I now know at 35 my parents were wrong this whole time. But so what's the right answer on video games? I think the right answer is, you let your kids do things that they enjoy and you kind of lean into things that they find specific and higher levels of enjoyment in. And then you keep an eye on having a well-rounded child, right? Like, are they playing video games 4, 5, 6 hours a day and letting all of their schoolwork falter? Are they losing relationships because of video games? Are they losing their physical health because of video games? Is their mental health being affected? You have to also understand that these games are built to be addicting, right? So it's actually a factor taken into account in their development when they make these video games. I mean, I recently listened to an interview with the guy who created the new Doom that's coming out soon. And I think it's coming out this month maybe, but I'm pretty excited about it. I remember the original Doom. That shit was amazing. So, so these games are built to be addicting. They're built to keep you engaged and keep you playing. It's logical stuff, right? So any video game developer wants their game to be played more and by more people, right? So and played by more people, so that their incentives are obviously lined up for that. And you have to, I think as a parent and a person playing video games, you have to be aware, you have to be cognizant of the fact that they're built with that intent. And you have to know that young children, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, they're not going to understand their own psychology. They're not going to understand that these games are built to be addictive. And as a parent, you need to give them input, and you're going to get negative feedback when it's time to turn the video games off. But is that different than anything else? Right? Like when your kid cries because it's time to be done with video games, if you look at that as evidence that the video games are bad for your kids, I'd ask you to look at their reaction when you take the Legos away at bedtime. It's the same shit, right? Like kids cry when you end fun because of a scheduled next event that they decide is less fun. Kids have less control over their emotions, and they go from 0 to 100 on the sad meter over little stuff. So acting like their reaction to video games being, if that's their reaction to video games and acting like that's an indicator that video games are the bad thing, I'd ask you to look at their reaction to other stuff, right? So, if their reaction is amplified times 10, maybe you need to look at how to make that a more healthy transition for them. But that's whatever, right? So I let my kids play video games. I don't let them play video games for 6 hours a day. I think an hour or 2 hours of Minecraft is perfectly fine. And I actually like Minecraft. It requires them be creative. It requires them build without blueprints, right? They figure it out. I'm amazed at the shit my kids have built on Minecraft. It's actually pretty cool to see their ingenuity. So there's so many positive things. They enjoy it. They bring their friends over. They play together. They develop relationships with this game, and and they ride bikes with those same friends and stuff. So it's not the only thing. So yeah, I think it's okay, the playing of video games, as long as there's active parental engagement. You can't use video games as your primary babysitter. Of course, I've distracted my kids, put them in front of the TV for stuff before. We moved into this house a few weeks ago, and they played more Minecraft than usual while we were moving in. If you're a parent and you can't identify with that, we can't be friends. So, there's that. But like, if the long-term parenting pattern is that you're abdicating parenting responsibility and using video games to fill that gap, that time gap, or to distract them so you avoid having to address an issue that needs to be addressed, well, yeah, we got issues, right? And you're going to have issues and see some probably negative results in child behavior as a result of that. But on the okay side of that line, letting your kids play video games is fine, I think, with, active parental engagement. We'll say that. So the next question is, taking that a step further, do I let my kids start a YouTube channel around maybe Minecraft as a subject matter, right? Let them lean into this a little bit more, try and teach them how to present what they're trying to do. There could be big positive upswings from this, right? Like an 11-year-old who's comfortable with public speaking is like a freaking unicorn in this world. So the idea that this could actually introduce them to the concept of public speaking, expressing what they're trying to do and expressing their ideas in a more detailed and well thought out way, those are all great developmental steps forward for a kid who's 8. Kind of a neat idea, right? But also, does that make them a child actor? Like, that gets a little weird. I mean, I'm sitting here let's look at it this way, right? How does anybody view the parent of a child actor? The mom that gets their kid up early to drive them to auditions. I've always judged the shit out of those people. Negatively, significantly so, right? Like, I see like they're living vicariously through their kid because they would never be so bold as to step in front of the camera or step in front of the microphone and say what's on their mind. Their child looks great on camera, and maybe they think they don't, or they actually don't, right? If the parent is particularly timid, is physically unfit, it's usually more self-judgment on that parent's part, I would imagine, than what the actual reality of their situation is. But they put their kids in front of the camera because they won't do it and then live vicariously through their kids. That's my judgment of child actor parents. It's probably wildly inaccurate, but that's what's in my head from that. And I think a lot of people identify with that kind of judgy nature when you look at the parents of child actors. And part of that comes from the most famous child actors get some really weird stories, right? Like you don't see that much positivity in the news of the results of child actors. And so that all of that negative baggage goes along with that ideal, I guess. I'm sure there's plenty of pods. I mean, the financial side there's an upside there. So but that gets weird. So anyway, I judge a shit out of the parents of child actors. So like, if I put my kid or allow my kid on YouTube, does that make me one of those? Does that make me a hypocrite or a fraud? Fucking maybe. And then you jump right into YouTube and you look at the families and the kids, the channels that are oriented towards kids that have the child as the main host or protagonist or whatever you want to say, or that involve the whole family and the kids are in it. And some of these channels have massive viewership, millions of views, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of subscribers. Is that parents leveraging their kids' likeness for income? And if they are, is that okay? I mean, I don't really have the answer to that. I know that it's the parents leveraging the likeness of their kids for income, obviously, but depending on how that's done, how the income is managed, is it put in trusts for the kids? Are you violating some child labor law? I mean, I know there's separate laws around child actors and how often they can work and things associated with the Screen Actors Guild and what qualifying for the Screen Actors Guild requires. I don't know, and this is just my ignorance, which maybe I should look up some of this and get into it, but I don't know how well, or, if those requirements for child actors and hours worked and income management, do those extend to YouTubers? Has the law caught up with that yet? Are these YouTube families, YouTube kids, parents of these YouTube kids, are they appropriately following those guidelines? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure some are, but there's no way that they all are, right? It's probably a nice even bell curve of how that looks. So, should I start a timer every time my kid gets in front of a camera for their YouTube channel and make sure I'm following those rules, at least initially? Like, what if it's a lot of fun for them and super engaging and they love it? Do I have to stop that at a specific time because of those rules that were like, they're in my home? They're not taking orders from a director. There's less stress on them than there would be on a set, right? I don't know. And that judgment of those acting parents, those child actor parents, is that they're living vicariously through their kids, and where my logic jumps is that I don't think they're willing to step in front of the camera and do it on their own, right? So obviously that's not me. This is a camera. This is a microphone, right? So like I'm obviously willing to do that myself. So I'm not to live vicariously. Maybe I think, but like I'd be proud of kids having a successful YouTube channel. I would tell other people about it. Maybe there's some flavor of that in there. Yeah, but I feel like a lot of what I'm rolling over with this episode and kids maybe starting a YouTube channel, and like, is that the best parenting decision? Or is this just a different kind of extracurricular for kids to lean into, just like Little League soccer, just like playing video games in the living room with their kids, with other kids? I mean, like, I don't know. But I think I'm at least going to let my kids try. Like, I'll let them play, record, evaluate their own recording, see if there's areas where they could be a better presenter, both from an audio perspective and from a gameplay perspective. Like working on that idea has got to be beneficial for the kids, clearly, right? I mean, it's that kind of conscientiousness, that like willingness to work and try and improve, and all of those are very positive developmental things. So I think that like the overall, I think it's a positive thing. So I think I've made the decision on while I'm talking through this, that I'm going to let my kids try this YouTube thing. But, there's obviously on the parent side of things, I have to put the channel together. If there's channel art that goes with it, I'm going to have to build it or find it. I'll have to edit the videos. My oldest child's 8. She's not in a place where she's doing video editing, at least yet. I mean, I can try and teach her and familiarize her with it, but I'm probably going to edit the videos. I'll do the uploads. We'll write the captions together. But there's a lot of parental involvement in that, like parental facilitation. To me, that looks a whole lot like driving your kid to an audition. Maybe going over headshots that you might be submitting to an agency with your child. Like, it seems like familiar activity, so maybe I should be judging the parents of child actors a little less, considering there are a lot of parallels that I'm considering in a positive nature, or positive light. But yeah, I think I'm going to let them start the YouTube channel. We'll see how it goes. The idea of a child being able to actively narrate their gameplay is a little, we'll see how it goes. I've got pretty low expectations, but if the process of recording is fun for them initially, even the stuff that's not going to go right up on YouTube, hey, I think it's fun. So, yeah. Hell of a first world problem, you might say, but I don't think so. Video games have made it to the third world, friends. So has YouTube. I've been to third world countries and seen teenagers playing cell phone games. So I've seen that shit firsthand. So if you're concerned that I'm focused on things that are first world problems, you can get off me, son. But yeah, I'm going to let the kids start a YouTube channel. We'll see how it goes. And I think the biggest takeaway from this is, parents, don't persecute your video game playing children. They're just doing something that's fun. You just got to manage the fact that, video games have an addictive nature that soccer in the front yard might not have, and you'll just have to provide a little bit of perspective and rationing and guidance for your kids around video games. Well, what do you know? You have to provide your kids some guidance around something so that they engage in a healthy way. I think that's the case with everything as a parent, so maybe video games are not so evil. for kids. Yeah. That's what we're doing. That's what we're thinking about as parents over here is how much screen time, video games. Should they start a YouTube channel? I think it'll be fine. I'll stay engaged and make sure that their mental health stays on this side of sane. Yeah. Let me know what you think. Thanks for hanging out.